Hey there friends on YouTube, it's the JTL. I am back again for another episode of Keep It or Return It. In this episode today, I'm going to favor you with my thoughts on the iPhone 6s, which is the newest in the line of iPhone handheld telephone devices. I don't know if you guys have ever seen one, but this one's pretty cool. I've been a long-time lover of the iPhone. Ever since the iPhone 3G, I believe, was when I got my first one. Do I keep it or do I return it? Let's find out. First, folks, let me find my iPhone. Oh, here's my iPhone. I've got this Spigen Tough Armor case. Now, there's another thing that I like is that this was an iPhone 6 Spigen Tough Armor case, and I'm able to use it with my iPhone 6s. Okay, so this is the device. Look, it turns on like that. Wait, no, there you go. There you go. I need a mirror, friends on YouTube. So yeah, see, it turns on. Now, what do I love about this phone? I know love seems like a strong word when talking about a technological device, but you know, some things that I really do love. The camera is much better. The camera has gone from 8 to 12 megapixels, which, you know, I mean, it might as well be midi-chlorians for all we know. But all I can say is the camera does work better, and it's great. The fingerprint scanner has always been a little bit frustrating to me on these iDevices. But let me demonstrate something for you. Let me wipe it off. This is the thing that blows my mind. So, okay, I touch it. Oh, boom, I'm right in. It's instantaneous. I've had to go actually from the point of, you know, it just reads it so quickly. So I've had to recalibrate my usage and start to use the wake sleeps button, which it's great unless you have notifications that are sitting there and you just wanted to see what your notifications were and you missed them. So anyway, maybe Apple will slow it down a little bit. In previous iterations of the Touch ID, it was always like I would wait that fraction of a second thinking that it didn't work, and then I'd start touching it more. Anyway, the 3D Touch is another thing that I like a great deal. 3D Touch, it doesn't have a ton of uses yet, but boom, you go like that. And you can jump into music, play Beats One. I have never played Beats One, nor will I ever want to play Beats One, so it's a little frustrating. Or search. I would like to see other options. I would like to see other options like play last playlist, you know, view last whatever. Something that's connected to what I was actually doing with the music app before when I last opened it, instead of Beats One, which... who cares? If you do it with Safari, let's see what happens with Safari. Oh yeah, so Safari, reading list, private tab, new tab. You know, it might be great to see history here, or, you know, to open some of your existing tabs. Mail is okay, but, you know, iCloud, I need to take that off. Anyway, well, maybe this isn't so great. I don't know. News, BuzzFeed. Anyway, you see what I'm talking about. It gives you some options without opening up the apps. This is going to be kind of dorky, so please don't hate me. You know, you can hate me if you want to. That's your choice. I love this live wallpaper thing with the little fish. I know that it's just a live photo or something, but I have this thing about fish, and this is a very beautiful black tetrafish, or betta fish, I mean. Some really practical stuff that I like about this. Coming from an iPhone 6s or 6 Plus, coming from an iPhone 6 Plus to this phone, this 6s is actually heavier than my 6 Plus was. It's got this stronger 7000 series aluminum on it, which is the same aluminum that's used on the Apple Watch Sport. And I really like this aluminum. It has a heftier feel. It feels stronger in the hand, and it gives the phone a little bit better weight, so it doesn't feel like it's just going to fly right out of your hand. So I do like that a great deal. I've had just about every Galaxy S phone. I've had just about every Galaxy Note phone. I've had just about every iPhone. I've had a few Motorola Android phones. I always go back and forth between Android and iOS. It's always sort of a grass is greener on the other side mentality for me when I do that. But I always end up coming back to iOS as the system just works so well. And I know there are a lot of people out there, a lot of Apple haters or whatever, who complain about the fact that iOS is sort of a walled garden and you can only use the system in the way that the Apple engineers have decided that you can use the system, etc., etc., etc. But I've found in my daily life that the way the Apple iOS system works is more in tune with what I need to do. It's more in tune with, you know, general life tasks. Whereas Android gives you all kinds of options about how you can do this, that, or the other thing. I always end up spending more time fiddling with my phone trying to get it to do stuff than I do actually getting it to do stuff. And I think part of that is me, sure, but part of it is also the fact that if you're talking about Samsung, they always have like 1 billion different features. You know, you can scroll with your eyeballs and you can do all this other crazy stuff. And none of that stuff, that stuff tends to get in the way more than it tends to, you know, help the phone work. The phones that I've had that are closer to stock Android have always been slightly better, but I always come back to iOS. So starting with my iPhone 6 Plus, I went to 128 gigs, and I was just like, I'm going to stay at 128 gigs. This time around, I wanted to get a phone launch weekend so I could, you know, get it and do some reviews, etc., etc. The AT&T store here in town didn't have any 6 Pluses. They had the 6, and I decided to try the 6 again with 128 gigs and just see how I liked having the smaller phone. There was a lot of great things about the larger 6 Plus, but a lot of times it felt kind of unwieldy. It didn't fit well in my pockets. You know, these are all the common things that people talk about. But is it worth going down in size with the 6 and trading my 6 Plus? Well, here's where I think Apple has gotten really kind of sneaky. They snuck up on us with this phone. And I kind of alluded to it a little bit when I showed like the Touch ID and all those kinds of things. This is by far the fastest phone I've ever had. And I know that if you look on paper, the specs versus the Note 5 or anything like that aren't really comparable. But when you look at the benchmarks, the 6S, the 6S Plus are blowing away on many different fronts the most recent Android phones. And Apple, you know, people have been complaining, oh, the Apple phones, they run great on their own thing, but they've only got 1 gig of RAM and blah, blah, blah. Well, now they got 2 gigs of RAM, and this A9 processor that they've got going is just freakishly fast. And the thing that I've always loved about Apple phones over Android phones is that there's never the bloat that slows everything down. My experience with Android has always been kind of like, you know, the way that you feel after you eat fried foods. When you get that Android phone, at first you're like, oh yeah, this is all so good, it's so tasty, and I'm gonna put it in my face. And then after a while, 2 or 3 months, oh, it starts to slow down, you get a little bloated, you feel a little yucky. And I've never had an Android phone where this hasn't happened, where, you know, it just got bloated and wore down and slowed down on me and became incredibly frustrating. I'm never going to run out of space with it. The camera has improved, and the speed of this thing is just beastly. So to this point, after using it for 1 week, I am incredibly psyched. And I'm going to say, for now, this is a keep. The iPhone 6S. I'm keeping it. Apple says this every single time, the best iPhone ever. This is by far the best iPhone ever. There's nothing holding this phone back. You can complain, as many people do and should, that Apple should not be releasing a 16 gigabyte base model because this phone shoots 4K video. And iPhone 6S, best phone I've ever had, hands down, and I've had a lot of them. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Until the next time, this is the JTL, and I am out. Please like and subscribe. Please tell me something in the comments. Hate on Apple. Jizz on Apple. I'm out.